Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We know that for many of you on the call today, it is at an early hour, but my name is Skylar Whitman, for those of you that don't know me. I am one of the co-founders of Worth Unlimited. The other one is my business partner and friend, Mr. John Wishenko. And it's an honor to be on the call with you this morning. So many bright and cheerful faces, I'm sure, out there, as I can't see personally right now. But I just wanted to get on, and I wanted to introduce you to Miss Darlene and Mr. Harry Preston. They are a field partner husband and wife team with Worth Unlimited, have been with us for years. And they are absolutely fantastic people, two of the hardest working people that I personally know. And just so glad to have them giving this training. Just wanted to also mention that Darlene and Harry are the top personal producers in the company. So if you're going to get training on how to personally present and represent the product and help your clients to get on the product personally, who better to go to than those who are the top personal producers. So we're super excited, again, to have you on this call. I won't delay any further, but as you can see on the screen, today's training will be the analysis process, how to go through and run an analysis. So anyway, without any further delay, again, we're so excited to have you on the call today. Let's go ahead and turn the time back over to Miss Darlene Preston. Darlene, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Skylar, for asking me to help with this process. And we're just going to get right into it. So, and I know it's pretty early there for you, so I thank you again for giving me this opportunity to be able to share with you. So, as I said earlier, for those of you that were joining the call, please make sure you have something to write on and write with. And I hope that you are able to invite your team on the call this morning because we have a lot of stuff to cover. You'll have several options when you get started referring people and getting them started to get their analysis. So we're going to go over a few things that you may feel as though, hey, this is something I want to do and I can do, or this might be something as while you're learning how to close a sale and follow through with all the things that are a part of that. This may be a way for you to say, you know what, maybe I want some help with that. Maybe I need a person that would be able to do that. You have those options because you can be an agent that does referrals, or you can be an agent that does referrals for yourself and closes. So you'll get both those commissions and so forth. All right, so we'll get into more of that in a little bit more detail. So today we will be talking about the three components, but the first component is how to get the information in and start running that analysis. And then we have our next session that talks about being able to present the analysis results and closing the sale, because isn't that the ultimate goal, getting that sale closed? How to collect and process the payments that people will do. Now, you're not physically collecting it, but you're making sure that the process of them purchasing it, paying for it, and getting started is all in place, and I'll cover that as well. So we have lots of things we need to talk about. So I mentioned that you can be a referring agent only, or you can assign that person over to a closer or a coach. And I like the word coach, but it is the person that's going to be doing the closing. And that you can set that up in your back office. You can have a person that you may know that does it, your upline or so forth, or you may have a coach that comes directly from the corporate office. Your other option is that you're the referring agent and you're the closer. So remember that you have to get the analysis put in, then you have to present the analysis, and you have to make sure the activation has been properly taken care of. That's your responsibility. After all of that happens, it is also your responsibility as an agent to take upon the fact that this person may want to be an agent. And then guess what you do then? Repeat the whole process. Just teach and share it with someone else. The next, when you talk to a person and they're ready to get some information, you want to make sure they get the analysis. So you're probably going, okay, now what do I do? They want to get an analysis. What do I do? How do I set it up? Who's going to do it? What do I need? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. We want to make sure you understand that there are some good notes understand there's no refinancing, no loan modification, credit checks, or account numbers are ever needed, no social security number, none of that stuff. And there's little to no change to the household budget. Now, the reason I'm going over this is because, guys, we have brand new agents that are starting, and then we have some that are taking their second look and getting a new, new life into their business. And it's always good to just have a quick review. So that's the reason I'm going over this information, because many of you know this, but it's important that we make sure everyone knows it. You want to make sure they understand that they can save time and interest on nearly every single debt that they have. So those are the good no's that we want to hear. All right, now everyone has the back office. Excuse me. As an agent, you have a back office. You should have received that with that welcome letter. And at the top right section of your back office, you will see different tabs. And today's purpose is to talk about the analysis. So you'll go to the prospect tab, which is right there in the middle of your screen. And then when you get that, you also have to understand when you're talking about the prospect getting the analysis, remember you need to get the analysis done also. Now that you would do hover over your name, and you'll see that you would need to be able to run your own analysis from this section, not from the prospect section, which is where you put everybody else. All right, that's very important. You don't want to have a duplicate information out there. It confuses the computer. So with that, let's look at the prospect page. When you get to your prospect page, you will have a place to put the new prospect in, right there at the top right section. When you click on Add New Prospect, the page will show for you to add their information. Now, it's really important, guys, that you pay attention to how to spell that person's name using upper and lower case. And it's important that you do that, because anything you send from this file is going to go right to them in the name, how you wrote it. So if you don't use upper or lower case, it kind of looks kind of sad. Now, I recommend that you put the address in, because in the closing process, when you are in the shopping cart, you need the address. So whenever possible, let's go ahead and get that address in there. But to run it, to start it, all you need is their first name, their last name, their email, and their phone number. It will not let you add prospect unless you have that information in there. Once you entered it in and say it's entered, it'll then show up in your list of prospects right there. It'll also create a screen on the right side, as you see on your screen. Now, what if you made a mistake? You notice that once you got in there, you made a mistake. There's an edit button right there for you to use. Go ahead and use that edit button, change the name, type it in, and then save that prospect. And you see it'll pop up with all the new information that you needed to put in. It'll change their name, and also in the body on the page with their name, it'll show you what you changed it from and with the new information. So you have the phone number to change, or if you have an address or so forth, that'll all show up right here on the screen for you. Now, what you have to understand also is that you need to be clear on what you're entering into the system. So always check to make sure with them that that information is correct. I do get a lot of people that have the wrong email, or they have a different email that they want to send it to. So be sure that that is extremely important. All right, let's talk about sending information. You have opportunity to send them the videos and to send them an ebook. Now, that's already in your back office, as I showed you, and all you do is click on one of those buttons, and guess what happens? A letter pops up. That letter will go directly to the person that you put in that email. Their address, their name is already identified, so you don't have to repeat it in the body of the letter. And the body of the letter here is you can edit if you'd like. At the bottom of the letter, it has your personal website, your replicated website, as well as your information. Just go ahead and press send message, and it goes out to that person. And here's what the letter for the ebook looks like. All right, same thing. It has your information, and you just need to send it. Now, guys, if you're editing that letter, my recommendation is to edit the letter before and then paste it in here. But if you're going to do too much changing on the letter, you must get that approved. All right, so make sure you have it approved if you're changing it, and then just copy and paste, because if you stay in the window too long, it will, you'll time out. All right, this is what the person receives from you, and it gives them the link to your site. All right, and then you will then know on your back office that they have gone to that you've sent them the information, and then they've actually received it because it's showing on your screen. All right, now, say you go about your daily business, you come back to your back office, what are you going to see when you go back into prospects? You're going to see that person's name highlighted in blue. You would have gotten an information as you see those numbers that you have something to look at in your back office. So it then highlights it blue saying something's happened. And what's happened here is this person has actually opened up the information. And it'll tell you that they started it, they finished it, and then it even gives you an indicator that how much they've read of the book. So all of this is great information, guys. But let me say this, don't wait until you see that they've watched it and they've received the information like that. I usually give them 24 to 48 hours after I've sent them the letter. Why do I do that? Because people get busy. And so I will always ask, have you had a chance to do this? Or have you received my email? You know, no, I haven't. Oh, you haven't? Well, let me send it to you again. But I would love to have an opportunity to show you how this thing all works. When's a good time? Because what's your ultimate goal here, guys? Well, the ultimate goal is to make the sale, right, and get an agent. But what you want to do here is to make sure they run their analysis, because that's going to sell the program for you. You don't need to try to convince them. Their numbers will convince them. All right? So when you are working the system, you may get people that aren't interested. They may just say, you know, I'm not going to respond to you, I'm not available, or whatever the situation may be. So we want to understand that there's a spot here that you can say make inactive. You're making them inactive, you click on make inactive, a screen comes up and gives you a choice. Once you select that, then you'll be able to make them inactive. They'll go to a separate screen right next to your active. You can always get them back and follow information for them, but here they'll keep your screen from getting all cluttered with those people that are just not ready for the information that you have. So when you do that, remember, they're still there, all right? The last thing on this screen, or this part on this screen that I want to discuss, is discounts. Now, guys, remember, there are different discounts that go on, and we're not going to get into the 30% and all the details about military, but I want to let you know where to find it, because we do offer a military and first responder discount. And that will be located under the News tab in your back office, and just look up military discount or first responder discount. It'll give you all the things that you need. Once you comply with those, send the information to corporate. Corporate will then put a discount code in your back office that you can use for completing the sale of the analysis with that discount amount. All right, let's talk about assigning someone. When you assign this person, that means that you said, I want some help. I want help closing the sale, or presenting first and then closing, of course. So you would press assign. Now there's two sections. If you say that you want to select the person, you would click on that button right there. And then you can search through the list, or you can have a person's name and just type that person's name and their name will come up, and then you press assign. Now they will receive the information about your prospect. All right, you still have that person in your back office under a tab next to inactive called assigned. You can send messages back and forth to yourself and the coach or the closer, and you are the two that read that information. Your prospect doesn't see that information. Now let's just say you decide to, do it yourself. You can do it yourself. You don't have to do this assigned. However, what if you select the home office? That's a good choice. Go ahead and select the home office for a coach. They will then receive the information, but please confirm the date and time that this person wants to have their analysis run. All right, once you select the date and time, because you've spoken to the prospect, then you will send that assign button, and it goes to the corporate office. And the way to make this thing really work is to set it up the right way. So you want to confirm with your prospect that they know their appointment time. You want to confirm with the prospect that they have the information in your back office is accurate, because that's what's going to corporate or to the closer, right? So prospect is expecting the call. I have a lot of people that say, oh, I didn't know you were going to call me. Well, their appointment time was scheduled, or it said They had 2 times they were available. Let's see which is the best one. So there is a call they're expecting. So you want to make sure that they know that information. Also, that whenever possible, all the decision makers are on the call, that they have internet access because a webinar is done, and get information. Now, you do have a worksheet in your back office. I've edited mine a little bit to comply a little bit closer to the question that they're asked when the analysis is run. But you know what they could have? Their most recent creditor bills. And I'll discuss the things that they need on that in just a moment. All right, so those are the things to make that, to start that to be a successful call. There's some other things, and I'm going to cover that now. You, as the referring agent, are responsible really to make sure you know when that call is going to be, or has the person done that, call and so forth. It will be logged in your back office under that prospect. You want to make sure that that person has computer access, as I mentioned, and that they have the information ready for their appointment. But if they're unable to make that appointment, they need to make sure that they tell whoever the appointment is with, because you don't want to tie up that person's time and no one's there. So that's just makes it easier, and that person understands this is what we're going to be talking about. All right. But when you do that and set up the appointment, then you'll have a successful outcome generally on those calls. So you have responsibilities. And once you refer that person over and assign them, just check the back office. You'll see the activity going on. Now, you won't see the numbers and the results exactly. You will see that they have been working in with that client. That analysis has been run, purchase, or whatever. You'll know that. Now, the coach or the closer's responsibility will be to confirm with that client their specific appointment time, and they'll send them an email with those details of what they need. They'll also enter the documentation into the back office, present the results, and in every case, as much as possible, make that closing sale for you. And that is your prospect. So it'll pop up under prospects as purchased, and it'll also pop up under sales, and it'll give you a time frame of when that does pay out. When you're scheduling it, these are the things that the person has to understand they're going to need. Now, this is going to be reviewed with the closer, letting them know as well. They'll need to know their monthly payment required. Now remember, people have required payments and they have payments that they choose to pay. So one is discretionary that's added, or extra that's added to the required payment generally. You want to we'll identify that as closers. The interest rate that the person is paying and the balance that's actually due. Remember, it's a snapshot today, or the day of the analysis. It's a snapshot. Now, if they have a mortgage, you're going to need to know escrow and PMI and terms and things of that nature. Remember, we're trying to show them that debt is a load, and we want to show them through the analysis how they can have strategic payoff to become debt-free. They'll have to know some other things, a few other things, basically off the top of the head, like their income and discretionary and just things of that nature. But we will give them the information, or anyone that's doing the closing will give them the information to confirm that they're ready to make sure that they have a successful result on this analysis. All right, guys. So we went through that pretty quickly, and there'll be a review of that of another time. Let's talk about the analysis. You're back in your back office, and you see that there's an analysis button. Boom. When you press that, you will have options. Those options will say that you can use the one you're currently using, start a new one, or create a brand new one by selecting this. Once you've run, everything starts off as master, and then you start a new one. You can say that this is, a scenario. Second scenario, maybe adding a mortgage or two, all right? But what you want to keep in mind, that when you are doing the analysis and running the analysis, it all starts before the actual appointment. You're gathering information before, during, and after about this person, okay? Different things, not just their numbers, but they're different things. You want to be confident that you have that information correct, because you want them to feel confident that you know what you're doing. So this is, especially if you're running it yourself, but you want to, even if you're having someone else run it for you, you want to be confident in the information you're giving them, they understand. Practice on yourself. That means get the program for yourself and run your own analysis. Don't guess, guys. Don't make promises. Only supply facts. If you're not sure what they need to know, be sure that you pass that information on to them and get to the person that will help them. So keep learning, keep growing, and never quit on what you're doing. Those numbers of yours for analysis that you'll be doing and growing will come, even if you don't start off that way. But you want to share the information and learn the proper ways to make it happen. Let's talk about getting into the analysis. Hold on a second. Let me bring that up for you guys. There we go. All right, so this is a live back office. So remember, when you're working with a live back office, any fun things can happen. This is under prospects. Now, just want to point here that this person went through and look what happened. They spelled it wrong. So you definitely want to go in there and edit that, because you don't want the client to see that you kind of didn't care about them because you left it in their mistake. So you always go in there, press edit, correct that information, and it'll set itself up. All right. Let's go back to Eartha Kitt, because you remember that's the person we were talking about. Now, we're going to do an analysis. All right, so first startup, there you go, open. And guys, I'm going to talk a little bit as though I'm talking to a client, and I'm going to also give you some instruction on the side. All right, so when I first go into this, I'll open up on this page, and I'll welcome them and all that kind of good stuff, and find out who's on the call with me. To make sure both decision makers are there, because you really don't want to have the person present to their spouse or the person that makes decisions. You want to be able to present to both of them. But whenever possible, that's the case, the scenario. But this is what I would say. We're going to talk about your debt. We're going to talk about income that covers the debt. We're going to talk about expenses, like living expenses, electric bill, water bill, and all that kind of good stuff. And then we're going to talk about some other things that'll help us determine what your analysis will look like. For example, we're looking at your debt and where you are and how much you owe and how long it's going to take you to pay it off. And then we're going to show you how it all works with the worth system, how it's going to compare to how much we can erase off your debt and how many years we can get rid of. Is that a good thing? Great, great. And then we go from there. All right, so let's talk about this. I'll ask them, do they have a mortgage? So let's just go through that. Do you have a mortgage? Yes, you do. Great. Do you have more than one mortgage? And I'm asking those questions as I'm going through. All right, do you have more than one? No, you only have a home. So let's go ahead and start this, guys, as though it's a real person. Now, I'm putting this up because I want you to be aware. If you have autofill, you're going to have all these things that come up. So be really careful what's in your autofill. A lot of people say just stick mortgage in here. If they have one home, I want them to relate that this is your home, your responsibility. If you say mortgage, sometimes it's a distant thing. This is my opinion. I'm going to give you how I do it with my opinion, and we'll give you some other options to follow as well. You want to make sure you have identifiers on all debt. So there's just one mortgage or one home, boom, you have it right there. This is what I'll say. We have your home in there. Now, what is your current balance? So let me go ahead and follow that through. What is your current balance? $188,100 and what is that? $117.72. Great. Now, the reason I'm repeating this is, one, I don't believe in dead air space. I believe in repeating it. And I'll ask them, when you see the numbers that I'm putting in, please double check that I'm getting the right number, because sometimes we hear different numbers, right? And so they're getting involved with me as well. And what is the current interest rate that you're paying? 4.20. All right, 4.20. Let me get that in for you. And what is the monthly payment, including the escrow? Including escrow. So it's not just the payment that they're making. You say including the escrow. That means I'll say to them, your taxes and insurance, or you pay that separately. So what is your entire amount monthly payment is what I want from them. And in this case, it is $1,289. Okay, got that. Is there any change on that? No, it's even. Okay, great. Now, and what portion of that is the escrow? And they'll either tell me they know or they don't know, and they'll put it in. Now, we do have a way of reverse engineering to get these numbers. And if you look at each section, it'll give you the information over here, what it is exactly. To reverse engineer it would basically be, if I don't have a number, I can put specifics in over here, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. I'll put specific information over here to be able to get one of these. But let me just tell you, they need to have at least 3 of the items that you need. And if they're prepared by filling out that workshop, their worksheet, then they'll have it 1, 2, 3 for you. If they're searching for it on their bill, and they take them a moment to find it, but it's on there. And that's why you want them to have it ahead of time so that they can just run through this. All right. Now, you usually have 30 years is automatically generated, And I usually press on the monthly payments so that they can kind of see that, especially if it's like this where the principal is $280 and then the interest is so much higher at $658. That tells them what their principal and interest is, right? And so the rest is escrow. Now, in this escrow, I'll ask, is this just your taxes and insurance, or do you have PMI or MI? Now, I say it that way because if they have it, they'll know. If they don't have it, they'll ask, well, what is that exactly? They'll know if they have it. If they do have it, then we stick it down here, all right? And I'll actually tell them how long it'll take them to pay that portion of their bill also. All right, for the purpose of this presentation, guys, I want to make sure we go straight through this so you get the basic information. At the bottom of this, you would say Save Mortgage. Let's go ahead and do that. Save Mortgage. All right, see, it pops up on the debt, and there's the mortgage that we just entered. If for some reason you need to edit it, you can always click back on it, because once they see it, they may say, oh, wait a minute, I meant to say this. I meant to say my interest, for example, was different. Now, I put this in here, and I'll say to them later. I don't go over it right then and there. All right, let's ask. Now, I did ask in the beginning, do you have another mortgage or more than one mortgage? And they said no. I now again ask them, do you have rental property, for example, or do you have this? And they may say yes or no, whatever it is. Nope, that's all I have. Okay, great. Let's go on to loans. I do explain what loans are because a lot of people do confuse as a credit card because they owe that money and so forth. And I will say that this is a closed-end debt. For example, it could be a car loan, it could be student loan, it could be internal revenue, it could be old bills that you're paying on now, and medical bills. All of that can fit underneath that as compared to credit card. It's revolving credit, and when you pay for it, you still have the money that's available. Some people have home equity lines of credit or lines of credit, and we're putting that in here at this point. And the reason we're doing that, unless they say it's a home equity loan, which means it's closed-end. And I would generally put it on the mortgage or I put it on the loan. All right, but that's going to be identified because some of this, there'll be a little bit of change in here coming soon. So let's talk about a loan. You have a loan, great. What type of loan? I don't need to know exactly who it's with. They can tell me who it's with if they want. They can say something like, well, it's a student loan or a car loan. Let's go ahead and see, let's put in a student loan. Student loans, guys, are getting huge. They're almost as big as mortgages, right? So the current balance on this student loan would be $8,300. So let's put, $83,000. So you'll identify that, and you don't want in your voice to reflect anything about that loan. And what I'll generally say is, okay, that's $83,010 and no change, right? Right. Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, I got that. Great, thank you. Guys, that's what you want. You do not want them to feel any worse than they already do about having this debt, because generally when they're coming on there, they're a little nervous. So I'll also ask them, what is your current interest rate? Now with student loans, guys, there's also multiple loans sometimes. Sometimes they've consolidated within the student loan system. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes they have one bill and various interest rates. If they have all those interest rates and all that stuff, I separate them out for them, because if they have the interest rate, they'll know the payment amount. All right, so you can create that as one amount if that's how they're paying it. And what is the monthly payment that you pay on this currently? And I stick that in there currently because I want to know if they're paying on this debt. All right, and so they're saying $520. Now, I did forget to mention this with the previous mortgage, but this is going to happen, you'll see. Do you have any extra principal? Are you paying anything extra on this at this time? No, I'm not paying anything extra. I can go over them right then and there, how much they still have left to pay. All right, almost 17 years. I don't always go over the principal and interest, but you can, because it's right there. Each window will give you information. All right, let's go ahead and press Save Loan. Now, when I mentioned that extra principal, they said, you know what? I pay extra on my mortgage. So what do? You go back up into the loan of the mortgage. You go right to the extra principal. That means they're paying extra. This is actually discretionary. What is discretionary? Extra money that you choose to pay on a loan. You choose. And whenever I see that, guys, I always ask, somewhere in there, whether it's after I do the student loan or after I do a credit card, I'll say something like, now, with this amount that you pay extra, is that because you choose to do that? Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm letting them know that's their choice to pay it or not to pay it. That's one. Two, what makes you select this amount to pay extra? Oh, I'm just filling up to round it off, or I'm just doing it for this reason, no particular way. That's giving you information. We're gathering information on how to talk to this person, all right? Because what do we want them to do? We want them to pay the minimum amount due on every bill, right, and put the extra or the discretionary in their savings or in their line of credit based on how they're going to pay off the debt. All right, so with that, let's ask, do you have any other loans that you have available that you're still paying on? No, I have no other loans. So we're talking about household debt, and I make sure I throw that in there because then they just be giving you theirs if they're sitting there by themselves. All right, the next thing we want to talk about is, do you have any credit cards that you are currently paying on? Yes, I do. I have a whole bunch. Sometimes I hear, or I have, you know, well, I have some. Now, I'm going to tell you this ahead of time. You're going to get some people that are going to have credit card notes that go above 50%. I know some of you have seen those. I have seen some that are 400% interest. All right, the system only goes as high as 50% interest. So I'll explain that in a minute on what to say. All right, let's identify this credit card. Now, they may tell you the name of the credit card, who it's with, or whatever. I will just put in that I ask them the type of credit card. Now, if in fact they have multiple cards that are the same, I get something that identifies it, whether it's the husband or the wife or partners or whatever it is. I put in the letter of that person or the last two digits on the credit card number so they can identify which one it is. And sometimes they say, oh, it's a signature loan or it's a principal or whatever it is, special loan, and then I can put that credit card name in there. What is your current balance? And then they'll give me the current balance. Let's see, it's $7,200. Now, whenever a person gives me a rounded number with zeros, that may be the correct number, but I always ask them, are you rounding up or are you rounding or guessing? They may say, I'm estimating this. All right, this is where I put in my notes that this is estimated. All right, because we want to get as close as they possibly can. If they're rounding it up, I might put that in here, but generally I put in here when they're estimating because we want to know if that number is going to change before we finish the analysis, because I try to ask them to look at the bill. I ask them what the interest is that they're currently paying, 19. Is that 19% or is there some change after that? Oh, wait a minute, it's 19.44%. That will change the results. So we want to get as close as we can. What is the credit limit? How much can you spend on this account? $10,000. Why do you want that? Well, the reason we want this is, one, to see if they're over or they are close or they have some cushion in their credit card. All right, so I always ask them what is the available amount that they can spend, or what is their credit limit. All right, and that's a question that you definitely will help you as you get further into the process. Now, when I'm up here with my mouse, I will then ask them, what is their required payment? Even though it's generated right there, we could be very close. If in fact we are low, it could be that the percentage that they're paying is higher than 1% of their balance. And when you change this past the decimal point, you can do it, or in front of the decimal point. And you can go up as high as 5% on that. The credit card companies generally don't go as high as 5%, but just so that you know, that will make this amount go higher. But if they say to me, I pay about $190, that's what's required, that's close enough for me. It's averaged actually over a 12-month period what the bill usually runs, and that's the amount that's generated there. I will then ask him, do you pay anything extra? Yeah, I rounded up. I can say maybe they round up to $100. So let's just throw $100 in there. Remember, you don't even have to use a calculator here, guys. If you put it there, all right, and you say save this amount, it's going to go ahead and generate the difference. Okay, I pressed the wrong button. That's okay. Let's go back to that, 100, and there it says use this value. All right, so let's go back that they pay $200 is what it should have said. I was jumping ahead there for a moment. Use this amount, and there's the difference right there, and then you want to update. All right, so there you go. Right there it shows that they pay extra. All right, let's just say that's it. Just for time's sake, let's say that that's all that they have, and I'll ask them again, and I'll let them know that when they start their worth account, they'll be able to add and subtract as their life goes on and as their life dictates. I'm already predicting. So you understand how that works, right? Yes. All right, starting to get my yeses. So here's a yes. The next thing we want to do is, so now that we've covered that, there are the debts that you've indicated. Is there anything else that you may have that you might have forgotten? No? Okay, great. Let's keep on going. Now, the income is based on how to cover the debt. So we want to make sure you have that money, plus you want to have extra. Now, in the income, I always say household income, and if I'm talking to that person, I'll generally write self. You can write their name in there if you want, and I just use capitals, it's easier, but you guys can use, however you want to do it. Now, we need to find out the frequency in which they get paid. Remember, if it's weekly, then it's going to change the discretionary because it's 4 extra paychecks a year. If it's every other week, it's going to change the discretionary. Why? Because that's 2 extra paychecks a year. Now, if you have once a month, that's pretty easy. If it's twice a week, remember, twice a week is either on a specific date. It could be on the 1st and the 15th or the 15th and the 30th, whatever it is. And you want to identify that with them because a lot of people say twice a month, when in fact, it could very well be every other week, and sometimes it is 3 times a month. All right, so you want to identify their income. All right, and so this person says, I'm retired. So we already know that that's probably going to be once a month, and this is take home. Take home, guys. What is it that you receive take home? And this person receives a retirement check of $29.89. All right, we can put that in. Let's save. Great. Is there any other income that you have coming in? No matter how many incomes they give me, I will always ask them, is there any other income you would like, household income that you would like to add? Also, please keep in mind that you are putting in the net, that's after taxes, all right? And it's important that you include that. Now, if this number up here is red, if it's red, that means that according to the debt that you've included under debt, that particular income is not going to cover the expenses. So it'll say you need to add another one. Let's go ahead and add another one anyway. This is this person also, and so this would be self. Now, I'll go back and change that other one just so that you know. This is their extra part-time job that they're doing. All right, so I put in part-time, and with that, I want to find out how often they're getting paid, and they say they're getting paid weekly, for example. How much do you get paid a week? Oh, about $1,000. All right, let's stick $1,000 in there. How about if we put 1,000 in there? All right. And I guess I could have made my screen a little larger so I could see a little better. All right, let's save that, and that's weekly, and I confirm. And there's the information. Now I want to add this as retirement. Again, guess what, guys? You can always go back and stick in retirement. And guess what? I am always talking as I'm putting it in because I want them to keep paying attention to get in there. And, of course, I spelled retirement wrong. Oh, I have retirement. Well, that's what they're doing. They're resting. All right. So we have that in there, update. All right. They're not resting if they're working this many hours. All right. So what the next thing is, we confirm that that's what it is. The next screen, I'll say, now this is going to be talking about expenses, you know, your living expenses, electric bill, water bill, groceries, and all that kind of good stuff. So right now we're showing that your income is $49.89 a month, right? Is that correct? Yes. Okay, great. And the debt that we've already put in comes to $21.09. That's the debt, the creditor debt we're talking about. Then that leaves $28.80, $2,880 for you to live off of: electric bill, water bill, groceries, cell phone, dining out, insurance, all those bills that you have to live off monthly. If you collectively put that together, what could you leave in discretionary to help you get rid of the debt faster? All right, because the letter that I send out or that's sent out asks them to have discretionary available, generally they can do it, but sometimes you'll have to explain what that really means to them because they'll go, well, I'm not sure. Let's just say they have $500 discretionary. So when you put it in, it'll automatically say, so monthly you spend about $2,300 to take care of your monthly activities and your monthly needs, right? Right. Okay. And $500 you'll set aside each month to put into your savings account, or based on how you do this, your line of credit. Here's a side note. Their line of credit wasn't showing that they had a line of credit. So I will mention it, but I'll talk about the checking and savings because no line of credit was given. So with that information, I'll just go back over saying discretionary is the money that you're setting aside to get rid of your debt, right? And $500 is what you're going to set aside. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and save that and move on to the next screen. Now, this is what it'll show right here. That you need to make sure that they know that what these two are, because they forget. That includes their monthly creditor plus their living, and that totals their monthly expense plus the discretionary. All right, I just happened to look over and saw that question. All right, let's update that. It gives them a recap, monthly expenses, and there's the information that they spend, the income, their living expense, their creditor expense, minus and leaving the $500 that they're going to use to get rid of their debt. Now, you had extra payments that you made on some things. Remember, we want everybody to make the minimum amount due on every bill and then put the rest into their savings account so they can use it to pay everything, not just one or two bills. So remember this section right here where you put in a little bit extra? Look at the debt. It's right here under your debt. See, you're paying an extra $100 on your mortgage and $11 on your Visa bill, and that comes to $111. We want you to pay the minimum amount on that debt and then put that $111 with that $500 into your savings considered discretionary, earmarked just to get rid of the debt faster, right? Great. Okay, well, we're almost finished. We have a couple more things. Let's talk about banks. Now, I want to first ask you, do you have at least one checking and one savings account? You do have at least one? Great. Now, we also want to make sure people think about an emergency fund. Some people already have an emergency fund set aside. Some people do not. And so we want to either start one, add to one, or create one when you get on the program. So you can create one when you get on the program, right? Yes, good. All right, another yes there, right, guys? All right, so with that emergency fund, I want to talk to them about that because look right here, guys. It says zero. All right, that means zero has saved because we have not entered anything in the checking and savings. This amount is determined from the debt that they put in, the amount that they have income, and the amount that they use for their discretionary and their living expense. And so it gives them an estimate of what they can put in there. This is editable, all right? And what you want to do is edit it after you put in their checking and savings. So I'll say, now let's just go ahead and give me an average of what you like to maintain in checking. What was that about? Now that can be one account, or guys, it can be whatever account that they want, but what do they maintain in checking? A lot of people will say to me something like, well, I don't have anything in there or something like that. Or before, after bills they have to have at least $500, right? So $500, all right? I don't, and you can, again, this is my preference, I don't put in the interest rate because most of the people don't know it. So I just update it from there. And what do you like to maintain or what do you have in savings? And they may tell me I have $5,000. All right, great. Same thing with the interest rate. I'll update it. Now what it says is they have $5,500 in checking and savings. But they have made note to me that they don't want to spend all, they want to keep this money in savings. So it shows that 100% is saved because what they had in there was $3,500. All right, that's what it just defaulted to. You can go in there and change that if you want, and you can put in that they want to have in their emergency fund, for example, let's just say $6,000. That's what they want to have in there. Watch what happens when you update it. It's now saying that they have not saved that amount. So this is one of the first things that the system's going to look at to get their emergency fund up to par. All right, now I don't let them start that way. I always go back and make sure this box is 100%. All right, so let's go back and change it to where it was. All right, let's just put in 3,500 just to make it quickly. All right, so there we go. So it's 100% saved. All right, but they can, whatever money's in this section will not be used or suggested to be used by the software. All right, guys, we're coming to the end. So I would say to them, now we're coming to the very last question. Let me ask you if I have your name and your email correct. I do? Great. Let's go ahead and put in your birthday. Would you like to share your birthday with me? You do? Okay, wonderful. Now, guys, this usually takes me a little longer, so let me just throw a birthday in here real quick. June 18th, that was my birthday. All right. So you're 35 years old? Yes? Okay, wonderful. And when do you see yourself debt-free? This is where they want to give you an age. And sometimes they'll give you an age, for example, I want to see myself debt-free at age 40. And then when you go to the bottom to update the screen, all right, when you want to update the screen, it's generally going to come back to the same screen. And I usually use that and say, 40, it's only 5 years, but you have a 29-year note. Would you like to reconsider that? And they may go in and change it. And we'll change it and update it, and then it goes to, guess what? It'll go to the summary page. All right, now the summary page, yay, the summary page has your information. I'm going to go over this, and all right, I'm going to go over this information because we've just gone through all of these. Now, please understand, you cannot jump ahead. So until you finish this screen, you cannot go to this next screen, and so forth, all the way to the summary. You must go in order. I also, let me recommend this too, because I did want to say this. On your debt, for example, if a person's giving you the interest rate and then they're jumping around to this, please ask them to follow what you need. And if you start off saying, I'm going to ask you a few questions, I do need to know the current balance, because it's easier to follow the system. It'll start projecting all the things that you need to project. All right, so it's important that you follow the system when you're doing it. You cannot jump ahead, though, unless these screens are completed, unless they say they don't have a mortgage. Then you jump to the next debt. That's still in the debt category. All right, so we're on summary. Summary is telling them what you just did, their income, all right, their total debt. And I do open that because I want them to, again, remember that extra amount. We want you to pay the minimum amount due on all your debt and put this extra $111 that you're spending on just a couple of things and put it so it takes in your discretionary, so it takes care of all the debt. And that's what will show right down here. All right, that's that income information. So you'll be setting aside $611 in your savings account, correct? Yes. Now remember, if you go more than that, the system's going to speed up and get you out of debt even faster than we project. If you end up putting less than that, now it's going to change the amount of time you have left and the money that you're going to actually erase, but it's still going to work faster than what you're doing now. So let's go ahead and set aside $611 now, because you can always increase it later if you want to speed it up. Sounds good? Great. Also remember, we have $3,500 that's going to be considered in your emergency fund, and I'll show you that number a little bit later during the presentation. Any questions at this point? Does this make sense? And then I ask that question. Now, at this point, I don't go over everything that's on the screen, guys. I don't. I just leave it there. The reason I don't go over the balance is because I want that impact on my PowerPoint. I want them to feel the impact. I want them to see what's going on. And with that, we're able to ask them, do they have any questions? How does, what is the anticipation of why did you get on this call? Somewhere in there that I've asked. Wouldn't it be great to get rid of that debt and take the burden off your shoulders? There are different questions that I ask during this stage, all right? And with that information, we're able to see where they want to be and what their goal is. I usually don't have a lot of questions. Now, I do ask them to make sure they have paper to write on in the beginning and something to write with. Why? I give them specific information from the analysis itself to write down, because there are a lot of numbers, and I let them know there's a lot of numbers I'm going to be showing you. However, I want to make sure this comes back to your memory, the things that we have discussed today, how much money we're actually going to erase, because what we're going to do right now is go over what you actually owe snapshotted from today. And this is what you actually owe and how much the bank is expecting to get from you. So we want to make sure you know what that is, even down to the dollar, how much you owe, how much debt is costing you. And then with that, we'll also see how many years it'll take you to pay off the debt that we've identified on these screens. And at this point, I might even ask them, do they have anything else that they remember they have to ask? Now remember, side note, if you're going to add anything to this section, debt or even income, you must go back to expenses, because expenses is the key for that discretionary total that we have down here. So you always, any changes that you go back to, you need to go back into expenses and be sure that on the summary it reflects the change. Because if you go back here, these numbers are going to be based on the original information that you put in. All right, but you can go back and edit and open it up. If a person gets paid by every week, or if they get paid every other week, you can press these little forgot what they're called, but they're over here. These little dots, and it'll break down what they actually get paid on the average monthly based on that extra couple of paychecks they get. All right, so it'll give you that information. I will generally leave it open because it gives them a little bit of a cushion on their money. So they see it, they have a little extra. All right, so they actually have $778 to use towards discretionary. Now, with that, I want to make sure you all know that we are going to go into more detail on options on how to fill in the program. If they have multiple debts, if they have debt that turns red, that's important. You need to make sure you know what recast is. That means that the debt will not pay off in the time frame that was allocated or what they gave you with the debt that you have listed there. All right, so that's really important that you cover that information with them. So if for some reason they put in here that here's their debt and it's 200, or say it's 288, you'll see that it's a negative loan. That means that they don't have enough money going in to get rid of the debt, and it'll ask them to recast this loan. If it's an interest-only loan, that'll pop up. Let's say they're paying more money. Let's just change that a little here. I'm not going to save it. All right, that brings it back into spec. I always ask them, is this close to what you still owe? It's important that you know that this system will do most of it for you and tell you where you have to fix it. All right, but I was trying to mess it up a little. But with that, I just want to let you know that you will see things that'll pop up on here for you. And that was my little alarm telling me it is now time for questions. So I want everyone to know that we will touch on that at another time, but understand that this section says that you need to correct it. And it does it with lines of credit, HELOCs. It does it with student loans specifically, all right, student loans. And you need to make sure you cover that. One last thing on here before we go to the question section is when you come back into this person's analysis, when you come back into it, okay, when you come back into it, you can always check anything that's going on. So we did the master. That's what we did. But this person said, you know what, I want to get a house. I'm thinking about buying a house. You can open it up there and name it with new house. And let me show you what's going to happen with new. I'm just going to type it for time's sake, and we'll do that. And we'll go in and open that. The same information will open that you've already put in. Now, I did notice that we have a little bit of error here. I put in bi-weekly. And this should have actually said weekly on my system. So when I see that, watch what happens, guys. I've changed something before the summary, right? After I go to show the summary. I want to put it in here, update. What's that going to change? It's going to change my available money, okay? Because now that went from $2,000 to $4,000. So let's go back into expenses and watch what happened. It'll automatically, this is your recap page, so you want to press this bar. It'll automatically stick it in discretionary. They're not going to do $2,500 in discretionary because they already told you $500. So you need to change this information, all right, back to just the $500 that you originally had. And thank you for the person that sent that comment in. And then save it, always upgrade before you go to the next screen. And it will then confirm that that's in there. And they would have caught it when you're doing it. If not, you'll be going back over it with them before you run their analysis. All right, so it brought it back to the same place. So thank you for doing that. But what I want to show you is, see that it says with the new, it only changed it on this scenario. It did not change it on the main scenario. All right, and you want to go back to your prospect page if you want to get back into your main scenario. And there it is, and it gives you an option to do new. But that's the one we just created. As soon as you open it, it goes to master. Please remember that every time you open it, it goes back to the original. So when you get ready to close, make sure you open it in the right place, or else you will be presenting the wrong scenario. And I just wanted to show you that income information where it's still based on the old one I had put in. All right, so I always change on the master. But I wanted to make sure you saw that if you made a change, the necessary things that you needed to do. All right, with that information, that takes us through running the analysis, and I want you to see down here that it says analysis completed. It also will show the dark lines over here saying that I have done the analysis. It's not saying they purchased or anything like that. It just says analysis completed. And for those that are assigned, a little box pops up here and says assigned. That person comes out of your active and goes into your assigned bar. So you can always open it up and you'll see the same information. You send information and notes to your coach or the person that's, the closer right in there and submit, and your information will pop up in this information bar here. All right. I'm glad we were able to bring that portion to you. And with the time that we have available, I want to see if there are any pertinent questions or comments from the team to see if you wanted to add anything or make any questions. I do see questions on here, and as a presenter, it's really kind of hard to read your questions and go along with the comments that are posted. So you place them in seeing the report right after. Okay, I do not show them the report right after the analysis. So when I'm in the analysis, I will run through the scenario. So right down here, that's a great question, made me remember something. You'll see when they're in the summary that you have variable buttons down here. Because I do a live presentation and I run them right through the live review of their program, I'll go right into live presentation. When you do that, it's going to bring up their screen. And again, always confirm you're the right person. If you've gone out and come back in, see it right up there? Make sure you're the right person, because it's easy to get the wrong person in there if you're not paying attention. If you press let's go, it'll start the analysis. No, that's not today's call. Someone said, are you going to do that now? No. But this gives it a chance for you to email the results. You're listening to the way that I do it. I do not send the results. I want them to get them from me directly, okay? Because you are the person that is giving them the correct inflection, the correct questions, and answers that you want to go on to the same thing. I do not do the demo video. It's available. I don't do it here. I send it to them. I don't send it, it opens it here. That's not what I want. Now, this is lit. This is not lit, but that's where to proceed to the cart. What will happen on these pages is once you press let's go, it's going to open up all your screens to go to the next step. All right, so that's what we'll be covering next week, and we'll also be covering the report. I do not, it's right here, report. I do not send it to the person in the beginning. And the reason I don't until I explain it is because if you send it here before you go to the actual shopping cart page, or before the shopping cart page, it'll already calculate their years and their how much they're going to save and all that kind of stuff. I don't want them to know that. Not until I'm ready for them to know it. Remember, you're in control of the presentation. You're in control of when they get what answers, especially if I don't have both deciding factors, people on here. If I don't, I'll go this far. Now, if I do, or if this person says, I make the decisions, I don't argue with them. I'll go ahead and start the presentation, but I ask them to get a piece of paper. All right. With that, I believe we have 2 more minutes, and I can answer 1 or 2 questions that are pertinent now. Let me go back to the presentation mode here for just a moment to finish this out and give you all a chance to enjoy the rest of your day. I want you to understand that we have just completed how to enter the documentation to be able to run the analysis. The second portion that we'll be doing is how to present and bring it to a close, all right, because that's our ultimate goal when we get this part. How can they say no, right, because they're saving money and erasing years, right? How to collect the payment, very important because we have a lot of options in there. And I do give my prospects all the options and how to activate them. That's all coming in the next 2 presentations. Again, make sure you understand that it's your responsibility to help the closer, whether it's yourself or someone else, have the information that's been needed. The person's information is correct in your back office. The person knows that someone's going to be calling them. You've reminded them, maybe by text or email or phone call, that if you're doing this, make sure you're on time. Get on there a couple minutes ahead of time. Be prepared and know that if you're assigning them to get that help, know when you need the help. I'm sure someone will help you get in there if you have a question, but it's harder to fix an error of a person that didn't know how to put it in than to do it for you and show you the right thing to do. So you can go along with that person. You can get on that sales call with the person. All right, so we've just completed the entering of documentation and gathering it. Next week, we'll talk about the PowerPoint and the PDF, which is the report, and then we'll talk about collection and options. So that brings us down to the end. You have my email or my phone number if you need to text me or call me with any questions that I did not cover. I thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you've received the information that you need and are ready for Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we will be able to bring you the next information. Thank you so much for being on the call today, and I hope that this information will take you to the next level. Hey guys, now that we're not recording, I just want to let you know that Thursday, the 27th, 8 p.m. Eastern is our next training call for part 2. Part 3 is scheduled back on Saturdays, and the main reason is because Saturday I have a live presentation to do locally in Columbia. So we will have our next presentation on after the second one. The third one is Saturday, July 6th at 9 a.m. Eastern. That's Saturday morning. All right, so that brings us to the end. Skylar, if you have anything to say or anyone else in the peanut gallery, please chime in.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Darlene. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to get on and say, listen, those of you that have joined us this morning, you can probably get a sense of why Darlene has been asked to give these trainings. She's very thorough, very detailed, and you know, the information that she went over, obviously it doesn't take this long to go through and run an analysis, but Darlene wanted to go through and give you some good pointers and inside experience information along the way to help you to be able to be as prepared as possible going forward. So anyway, thank you so much, Darlene.
You're welcome.
There's great. What's that?
I'm sorry, you're correct. The fact is that I can do pretty much the whole presentation with the closing and all that stuff in about an hour and 10, 15 minutes. And the reason I say the extra few minutes is because we generally have to do special things when we're closing. So it's important that you know that you can do this in a couple of settings or you can do it in one. But you're right, I wanted to go into a little bit more of the details so that you can get a variation of how to do it.
Right. And, you know, the more educated you are about the process, the more prepared you are. And again, you know, if you want to be the closer, then, you know, study this information, practice this information, and you'll get better and better at it. But again, if you want someone else to be that closer for your deals, you just want to generate the lead and set the appointments, then that's an option as well. And that's something that we really just didn't have formalized and set up in United First Financial back in the day. So anyway, thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you so much, Darlene, for taking this time to do this. And we look forward to the next training, how to present and close the client. And other than that, everyone have a fantastic day, and we will see you on this call on Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Thanks so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Darlene, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.